Welcome back to the United Pubcast on this Saturday night here in Sydney, obviously Saturday morning in the UK. It's not the Friday night point, Larry. I did miss you last night, but not often we chat on a Saturday night. Usually we're waiting in a Manchester United kickoff or an English Premier League game, but the football has stopped and we've got a fair while until it starts back up again, unfortunately. I know United's pre-season will come around very quick, but competitive football will be a while. So Saturday nights might be a more regular thing because, quite frankly, I've got nothing better to do if there's no football on. So thanks for brightening up my Saturday night, mate. And tell me how the weekend is going with no football, no Manchester United.
Weekend's good. Good evening to everyone who is watching. Appreciate it. I went to the lake and read a book today. Couldn't believe myself.
Did you take your fishing pole or something?
I didn't, but there was a guy about 10 meters away from me who was fishing very passionately. I don't think he was catching anything, and if he did, I would not recommend eating out of that river. You would die. But nonetheless, he looked like he was enjoying himself.
No, definitely good to see George in the chat as well. Obviously, all things goalkeepers today. Obviously, George, no shortage of knowledge in and around the goalkeeping issue. So, look, Larry, I don't know. We'll just have a bit of a casual chat. Obviously, a little bit of news. We'll sort of touch on in regards to. It looks like there is a little bit about ONANA. Obviously, the David De Gea breaking news this time yesterday. We'll obviously touch on, but just more of a casual chat because there has been a bit of a fallout both sides of the fence in and around the David De Gea issue and sort of the treatment he's getting from sort of sections of the fan base. I think that's worth a discussion. Then obviously separate that as well and look at the actual facts behind the matter and the goalkeeping situation and pros and cons of him staying, leaving, etc. and everything. But I just want to sort of start on the reaction to David De Gea sort of potentially. I think the Mirror potentially, it's a reporter who seemingly has a little bit of a connection with Erik ten Hag. So this story does hold a little bit of weight. In regards to evidence of how he has reported since Erik ten Hag has come in. He has reported that David De Gea is very likely to take the deal in Saudi Arabia and leave Manchester United. Obviously, he wasn't mentioned on the retained list for Manchester United. Mason Greenwood was. That's another discussion. Obviously, no sort of outrage over that. But interesting to see that David De Gea wasn't included on that retained list because his contract negotiations are still ongoing. But the Mirror have reported that David De Gea's future is away from Old Trafford. And I said this a few weeks ago when I always thought he was going to stay. I thought, yeah, he'll sign a new deal, and what that means for the goalkeeping situation, I'm not sure, but he will stay on reduced wages. But it came out maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago that Saudi Arabia were potentially looking at him. I said, well, hang on, that's going to put a spanner in things because David De Gea is going to weigh this up and think, hang on, look, the abuse and sort of shit and treatment I'm getting from fans here, or I can go quadruple my wages and be first choice somewhere else. I can start to look at the end of my career. So I always thought there was legs in this Saudi Arabia thing once it did sort of come to light, and it does look like that is potentially going to eventuate. But I want to bring it back, Larry, to the sort of the reaction from fans towards David De Gea and this news. My first reaction is, okay, if we want to move the goalkeeper on, okay, Erik ten Hag's decision, that's good. Or whether I agree or disagree, it's not my opinion. It's not my sort of player. It's the manager's decision. I thought, okay, well done, great career at Manchester United, club legend, club great. He's sort of in that bracket. That's up for personal interpretation. But I thought, good career. I wish David De Gea all the best. I'll be sad to see him go, but it might be best for all parties. The reaction from Twitter and large sections of this fan base, shirts were off, dancing in the street, over the moon, saying, get out of my club, this is 5 years too late. And the reaction to David De Gea potentially leaving the club, I thought, was just, I don't know what the word is, embarrassing. That's pretty much simply put. Just your thoughts in regards to the fallout of this news.
Yeah, look, I think De Gea leaving does come out of left field a little bit. I think most of us have expected him to stay, and that's what all the reports have been. But I think when the more you look at it and you look at the way United play and the way we want to play, and I think a lot of this started to really unravel out following the Champions League final. I think most United fans probably don't watch other football teams. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. And they probably watched Onana play and saw, oh, okay, goalkeeper who can, good with the ball at his feet. And I think from there, De Gea had a rough end to the season. So let's start there. And then obviously you watch the Champions League final and you're watching a goalkeeper do his thing with the ball at his feet. And then from there, I think that De Gea's relationship with the fans has definitely soured. I think it's fair to say that. He's at times tried to move away from Old Trafford, and he's
Do you have
made
to
no
differentiate the
secret
fans? Because I agree, but also he got a standing ovation the other day at Old Trafford when he's getting his award. I think the match going support, while they might have an opinion that we're best without him, potentially
Yeah.
they're fully behind him online. Different matter.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do agree with that, but let's not pretend that these players don't look online or look on Twitter. I mean, I'm sure they do.
I know.
So
I think it's played a huge part in his potential decision.
look, I personally don't think that that's the case.
It played a part, obviously not the overriding factor.
It's no, but at the end of the day, I look at his level of performance, and he has been in a decline, a steady decline, and I think that that's fair to say. I don't think. Yes, he got the Golden Glove this season, but I think a lot of that is attributed to the defense, and I think he's made some big shot stopping saves at times this season, but he's definitely not shot stopping the level that he was under the likes of, say, Van Gaal and even
Would
Mourinho.
you say a decline or modern goalkeepers are improving? And it's kind of balancing out. The bar was set so high. Now the game is changing, and he's not getting younger. Obviously, he's still prime age for a goalkeeper, but
well, if you look at pure statistics, he was in terms of saves per shot, he ranked a lot higher 4 years ago than he does currently. So, I think there's an element to say, like, yeah, he's not saving as many shots as he previously did. So I think that's valid. And the statistics point to that. And then, yes, what you're saying is 100% true as well. What we're asking of goalkeepers has changed. There's no doubt that De Gea, during his time at Manchester United, has been, in my opinion, the world's best goalkeeper. But unfortunately, what the world's best goalkeeper looks like now is no longer what the world's best goalkeeper looked like 5 or 6 years ago. And for that reason, De Gea's almost been left behind at 32 years of age.
Tad here saying massive respect to De Gea for his service to the club, but I don't understand this disrespect aspect. He has been paid handsomely. Fans talking like he played voluntarily. Just my thoughts. George as well. Best for all parties if he leaves. And yes, it was overdue, but the disrespect he's received is disgraceful. The one guy over 10 years who's given everything. You'd have to say if you go over the last 10 years, he's probably our player of the decade. Now it's hard to put a goalkeeper in a player discussion, but in regards to performances over a decade, it hasn't been the greatest decade. But he's definitely in there. And this is an interesting shout here, just sort of reminded my memory. But if De Gea was born 10 years earlier, he would have been regarded as one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time. It's fascinating how sort of things come full circle. We're getting rid of him now at the moment. All the criticism around his game at the moment, rightly so, is his distribution and with the ball at his feet. When he came into Manchester United 10 years ago, or in 2011, he was the best player. He was the best goalkeeper in the league with his feet.
Yeah, he was decent. He was I think in his first season, I remember him doing a bit of trickery with the ball.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was unheard of. It was unheard of. He was, oh my god,
him, and he did
what's
a bit
this goalkeeper doing?
And
he was the only person in the league who would do it. And it was it's funny how it has come full circle.
Yeah, and it's interesting, I think if he got the coaching that goalkeepers get now at 18 years of age, I think he would have been fine.
He's got lovely technique. Like he's actually got a really sort of fluid technique. And,
but
I think a huge part of it's mental.
Yeah, you're right. There is a mental component, but also he's being asked to do things now that he probably hasn't worked on in the best part of 7, 8, 9 years. So, I don't. That's not a criticism of him. Let's also remember United have been a counter-attacking side for the best part of the last few years. I mean, outside of Louis van Gaal, who made his best efforts to bore us all to death, United have been pretty much a counter-attacking side. There hasn't been a need for him to play out from the back.
It's interesting. Ted there brings up the point in like Harry Maguire and everything, and you say David De Gea he wasn't brought up sort of with that sort of intent in terms of sort of training and the way to play. The players around him for the last 10 years weren't grown up playing. Ashley Young wasn't grown up playing how to play out from the back. He was a right winger for Watford. Harry Maguire was sort of clearing headers for Sheffield United sort of thing. Like these players around him weren't designed. They didn't grow up as well playing out from the back. So it is a sort of shock to the system, and definitely has hit him hard. And it is a ruthless thing. But just your thoughts on what you think actually does eventuate with David De Gea. Because I think a week ago we were saying, sort of the future might be away, but maybe not this year. Like he's going to stay on reduced terms, and then we'll maybe address the issue because it's maybe not the number one priority. But seeming Harry Kane sort of fading away. So now maybe striker's not the main issue, and David De Gea is tempted by Saudi Arabia. Suddenly maybe the goalkeeping issue becomes the priority. So just a betting man, how do you think this plays out?
I seem to be of the same thinking as you. I think Ten Hag wanted Harry Kane. I think that was his first choice. I think now that you're seeing Hoyland, Atalanta demanding 100 million euro, absolutely laughable. So I think now strikers looking difficult. So maybe he's saying, all right, well, why don't I just evolve the way we play and I'll blow half that budget on a goalkeeper instead. So yeah, I actually think we've seen the last of De Gea. I think that's the way it'll go now.
Well, in the comments, I'll ask you as well, Larry, but in the comments, describe De Gea's sort of status at the club. Is he a club great? Is he a club legend? Like how do you define it? Let us know in the chat. And also do leave a like on the video for David De Gea. But Larry, I'll throw it to you. It's hard. There's been so much discussion about sort of what constitutes a legend, and those debates are they're always sort of valid in regards to its own interpretation. There's no sort of cut and dry rule. I would go very close to legend. Now, obviously, maybe the trophies when you compare it to other goalkeepers, obviously Schmeichel and Van der Sar maybe doesn't sort of add up, but that's obviously the teams he was playing with and the generation he was sort of playing with. In regards to performances, though, for a decade, I think, God, he was up there in regards to performances, maybe just let down in regards to his achievements. So I would 100% club great. For me, very close. I wouldn't argue against a legend.
Hell is trending on Twitter. Like, Glazers burn in hell. Like, literally all 4 words are trending on Twitter.
There you go.
Sorry to interrupt you. I found it really amusing.
I'm not shocked.
Sounds like something a 16-year-old would write, and someone's just like, all right, yeah, I'm going to roll with this.
But where do you put it? Yeah, look, that is Twitter. But where does he sit? As I said, I have it 100% cast iron a club great. Very borderline. I would even argue, if I'm in a good mood, I would say club legend.
He falls short of club legend for me. Just didn't win enough trophies. And I think even as a goalkeeper, you tell me if I'm being harsh. I think he's an elite shot stopper. Every other component of his game was either all right or below average. So, like,
when he was signed, when he was assigned as a kid from Spain, he was there to save shots. He wasn't here to dictate play.
I get that, Tom. But okay, forget the ball progression component. He doesn't really command his area either, and I think that's like whenever United, he's horrible with crosses. It was something I noticed in his first season, and he just never improved on it. He's always struggled with corners and crosses, and he doesn't command his box, doesn't leave his box. I think he's tried to improve that this season, but it's very unnatural. You can see that, and I think that's why I've seen some of the clangers that we've seen. Let's also not forget he's got the highest error rate of goalkeeping errors leading to goals of any goalkeeper in the Premier League at the moment.
I've seen some of the things. I've seen other goalkeeper mistakes where if it's Jordan Pickford and it's not classed as a mistake, but if it's David De Gea, it's classed as a mistake. It's very interesting in regards to you see some things that aren't other goalkeepers. You hang on.
I can only follow the stats, but
obviously. So the stats.
And this season, multiple times this season. I mean, we've seen him.
You can't hide from some of his mistakes. Yeah.
The match, the away leg at Sevilla, you could have criticized him at match fixing. Like he was all over the shop between him. I feel a bit sorry for him, and I mean this with full respect to Harry Maguire, but De Gea's worst performances have come with Harry Maguire on the pitch. So there might be something in that.
Well, look, it's one of those things. Individuals have to take responsibility for their performances, but all individuals affect other people. And some players sort of have that chemistry, some players don't. And that's one of the things that you talk about, David De Gea, is the huge obviously the distribution now, but the huge weakness over his time definitely has been that command of the area.
Yeah.
But that's always just been his weak spot. He's excelled in other areas. Like other players, we have such a focus on weak areas and strong areas of goalkeepers. A left winger, he'll have a strong area and a weak area. We don't really highlight that too much. A goalkeeper, we scrutinise, he's really weak in this area. Like we don't really criticise other players in terms of that part of their game. We obviously criticise and highlight, but not to the scrutiny of a goalkeeper. And that is sort of goes into my next discussion in regards to the next goalkeeper. We can bring in a better goalkeeper in regards to the modern game and the traits they will possess and help the team. But a huge part in my hesitancy to say goodbye to David De Gea is the weight of the Manchester United shirt. We've seen here, Prem here, good to see. He's obviously made his thoughts clear around David De Gea. Evening, lads. I think I've shared enough opinions by now. Won't forget some of his performances in 17-18. Happy to see the change now, though. In regards to change, we have seen change before. In regards to when Peter Schmeichel left, we've seen great goalkeepers come in. We've seen World Cup winner in Fabian Barthez come in. Fabian Barthez is very, very similar to ONANA, but very similar goalkeeper in regards to left-footed or the way he plays the game as well. ONANA's obviously extremely two-footed, but World Cup winner come in, Fabian Barthez, made a mistake, crumbled. David De Gea has shown he can make a mistake and he can bounce back and be a Manchester United goalkeeper. We can bring in a goalkeeper, which we'll get into the individuals in regards to Costa, ONANA, or someone else could throw a name in there if you feel free to. If they make a mistake, how do they react? Now they might react brilliantly. They might come on to be a Manchester United great. Fingers crossed that is the case. But it is a huge risk. You saw when Pep Guardiola came in and sort of got rid of Joe Hart and brought in Claudio Bravo. Claudio Bravo, great goalkeeper with his feet. Didn't suit. It was one mistake, absolutely crumbled, wasn't suited for the Premier League. Now, that's not to say ONANA or DIOGO Costa wouldn't be, but it is a huge risk. We don't know how they would react to a Manchester United shirt. You can be great at Porto, you can be great in Inter Milan, you can be great in the World Cup. In between the sticks at Old Trafford, when you make a mistake and the world's media is baying for blood, how do you react? And unfortunately, you don't have that answer until you react. Until you make that mistake, we don't have the answer. And obviously, you do have to take that risk. Every signing is a risk, no doubt. But that is where I'm happy to let David De Gea go and trust Erik ten Hag to bring in the new goalkeeper. But whoever it is, even if it's so-called better goalkeeper, I welcome them fully. I am hesitant and I'm skeptical, like with any signing, but especially it's a high-pressure situation and you have to get it right because very likely there's a very real possibility, just go by the facts and sort of past history, that the next goalkeeper will fail. It usually takes one or two goalkeepers in sort of trial and error. You hope that's not the case. History tells us that will be the case. You don't want it to be, but it sort of unfortunately
I think we'll be all right. I think we'll be all right. I think because the way goalkeepers, the way they play has changed, I don't think the microscope or the pressure on a goalkeeper will be as prominent. I think with De Gea, like when De Gea came in, let's not forget, he was 18 years of age, coming from Spain. There was always going to be an element of, he may struggle initially, and he did. But he settled in, right? And I get it. I know United really struggled to replace Peter Schmeichel, and that's where your concerns come from, I imagine. And that's valid. But, I think if you look at Edward van der Sar to De Gea, outside of the first season, it was pretty smooth sailing for him. He was a young goalkeeper. Anders Lindegaard came in for a little bit, but then De Gea found his feet by the end of the season, and he was fine. So all in all, I think United will be fine. Depending on the profile keeper, looking at the goalkeepers that we've been linked with, we're not talking about 18-year-olds. We're talking about people who have been playing at the top level of football, been playing in the Champions League, crucially, for the best part of at least 2 or more seasons. So for that reason, I'm not as concerned. And then when you counteract that with, at the end of the day, these players will be more progressive on the ball. They will come under the microscope is shot saving. Will they be able to save a crucial shot and give United the 3 points where David De Gea was able to do that? Now, that's where the criticisms may come. But all in all, I think United will be all right, whether it's DIOGO Costa, ONANA, having a mind blank, guy from is it Brentford or Brighton?
David Raya.
David Raya, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Well, it goes into the next names. Tad here is a name. I haven't seen these links, but a few people potentially have mentioned it. Emi Martinez would be an interesting shout.
How old is Martinez now?
Yeah, look, he has been around. That's an interesting shout just because of the personality he brings, and you love him or you hate him. If he's with us, you'd obviously love him. If he's against you, you obviously hate him. So that's a tricky one. I don't think business-wise Manchester United will touch him. Just potentially.
But if he's playing for United and said, "I hate Arsenal."
There's one of the things. Well, George brings it up here. We'll just get this out of the way first, Larry, before we move on to ONANA and Costa. Just Jordan Pickford, he's linked. There is a rumour there. I refuse to believe there's any credibility in it, though. I believe it's just agent talk and the English media wanting an English goalkeeper being at Manchester United because you'd assume Dean Henderson is going to leave. Jordan Pickford to United. Of course, I'd back Erik ten Hag, of course. And if Jordan Pickford come in, I'd find the positives in it. I'd love him. I think there would be a not like Glazers out protest sort of thing in terms of the backlash towards the owners. Like Manchester United fans welcome every signing. I think there would be a visible and sort of quite a loud sort of backlash to a Jordan Pickford arrival. I think the fan base is quite unanimous in their feelings towards him. And I just think, look, you'd support him if he came in. Of course, it would be one of those things. But I think there would be a real he'd be starting behind the 8 ball. It would be a dreadful signing for so many reasons.
He will
You don't
go
agree?
he'll go diving for the bottom corner, and you're gonna say, oh, if his arms were longer, he would have got him there.
But am I right?
He does have short arms for a goalkeeper.
It's a huge trait. That's something that would benefit a goalkeeper, longer arms.
Yeah. Yeah, he does have surprisingly short arms, but he's effective. Every time United versus Everton, he manages to
But
have
what
the
does
game
Eric
on
Ten
his
Hag?
side.
Well, we're going to get into Costa and Onana. Jordan Pickford with his feet, he just kicks the ball as hard as he can. He tries to find Rosette, like literally. And I'm just thinking, it makes no sense for me.
Yeah, he's
You
not
add the
a great
personality, which I don't like, and everything that comes with that. Of course, I don't know. In terms of shot stopping, yeah, he can make himself big in terms of those reflexes. But in regards to shots, like anything,
is he
anything
tall?
from outside the box, you put it in the corner. Like it's
He looks short on
almost
TV. How tall is Jordan Pickford?
George has the same feelings to me.
5 centimeters. There you go. He's a 6 foot tall goalkeeper.
I think most goalkeepers now are quite big, but it goes into the actually, Chris here, good to see you, mate. Hope all is well. Is the 100% leaving? Look, not at the moment. In regards, it's just a rumor. Just reported. And sort of one or two signs do suggest to potentially that being the case. If Larry and I are betting,
forget his arms, he's awful regardless.
If Larry and I are betting, we do think he's probably more so going to leave Manchester United, but I'm definitely not confirmed. But Larry and everyone. I think everyone in the chat, Onana and Costa. Well, where do you want to start with this one, Larry? Probably Onana, because we obviously did watch Inter Milan probably for the first time this season. It definitely was for me. Probably for the vast majority of Manchester United fans as well. Had a good look at Inter Milan, and Onana was probably the standout through no fault of his own or Inter's, probably just where Manchester City were playing the game. It was in the Inter Milan after they had a lot of possession there. He was on the ball. And obviously extremely comfortable. I did watch a YouTube compilation after it. I think, my God, this guy is he can play number 6. Like, he's very comfortable on the ball. He likes to go for a bit of a jog and a bit of a dribble sort of thing, which obviously would excite fans. Me, at my old age and my heart problems, I don't need that in my life. I had enough with Fabian Barthez in my younger days, going walkabouts. I think Onana doing Cruyff turns inside the 6-yard box. It's not what I need at my age. So he would bring excitement, and obviously extremely good quality in terms of playing out from the back. Goalkeeper in terms of his attributes, in terms of saving shots, I'm not no expert on him. Who knows? Might be great, might be subpar. I'm not sure. He obviously has worked with Eric Ten Hag though in the past, so there is a relationship there. Eric Ten Hag has spoken highly of him. So the Cameroonian international, actually just for Prem here. Remember this? The Cameroon kicked out of the World Cup squad because he wasn't playing traditional. He is that. Where I do compare Diogo Costa, and they're the two names that do stand out, Diogo Costa and Onana. While Diogo Costa is very sort of a modern goalkeeper in terms of likes to get on the ball, likes to play, he's very much textbook and very traditional. Onana is someone who would like to do a bicycle kick, he'd like to do a Cruyff turn, he'd like to try and nutmeg a player before he plays the pass, which is brilliant to watch. If you have Onana, though, you're going to have to unfortunately pay the price of 1 or 2 howlers a season, it does look like. But just where do you sit on Onana, especially after the back of obviously performing at a very good level in the Champions League final, no bigger stage. The next biggest stage is Old Trafford. So just your current thoughts on him.
Look, I think that's a good point. The fact he's gone from Champions League final into potentially Manchester United, good transition. The thing I like about Onana, Ten Hag's had him before. He was with him at Ajax. Is this his first season at Inter, Onana? I think it is, isn't it? Or did he sign the season before?
One of the Italians in the chat will definitely know.
No. It has to be his first season because he was with Ten Hag in his final season, wasn't he? So
from memory, from the footage I remember, Sandro Martinez, I think was
Onana. It is his first season. I don't think he's the best option of the ones that we've been linked with, if I'm being honest, but he's good with his feet, obviously. And the fact that Ten Hag's known him, there was some talk that they've had a falling out. I remember seeing a report about that about 12 or so months ago. But if he's linked with United, if he signs for United, you have to think all things have been solved. I think he's an upgrade on the way Ten Hag wants to play. I think he's an upgrade. I don't think he's the shot stopper that De Gea is, but he will allow United to play further up the pitch, which means I think United create more chances as a result and hopefully should get more goals as a result.
I want to go into my next point here, but just Box, I'm good to see, mate. He brings up a point, kind of sort of backtracking, but I think it's a good point in regards to just quickly answer this one, Larry. What's in just your opinion, the main issue in regards to David De Gea's potential exit? Is the wages, Manchester United, in terms of reducing those wages, or he wants a longer term contract, or simply it's football related and not guaranteed? In terms of what the main decision from David De Gea's point of view, what do you think leads to the departure?
I think it's the wages. Well, because United had the option to extend his contract. They're clearly not doing that. And they've said to him, we're not going to trigger the extension. We're happy to keep you, but it'll have to be for less. And how much less seems to have been the sticking point this whole period of time. It was never, we never heard any reports about an issue around how long the contract's been. He's into his 30s. I imagine it'd be a 1 to 2 year deal, which is standard for someone of his age. But it has to come down to wages. As simple as that. Now, this is maybe this comes back to the criticism of David De Gea. Every player has their right to earn as much money as they can while they play. Fair play. When you're on 375, he's never justified that wage. Granted, he didn't offer it to himself. United offered it to him. If someone offers me that much, I'm going to sign the paper too. But he hasn't lived up to that expectation, as lofty as those expectations may be. There has to be an argument here. Okay, well, if he's really loyal to United, should he just have stayed for whatever they offered? And it's a valid point. I think United have looked after De Gea. Maybe there's a sense of, I'm not saying that this is the case, but then I ask you and ask those listening, is there an element of disloyalty by De Gea for not accepting a lower wage?
Look, you're not wrong in terms of the service he's given us, in terms of the situation he found himself, in terms of when the dream move to Madrid fell through and he came back and signed a contract and performed at the level he did. I think David De Gea's sort of commitment to Manchester United, in my opinion, sort of can't really be questioned. I know he's sort of not really doing that. It's sort of both sides of the coin. But it is interesting in regards to that. I look at it and just think I almost put it in the Lionel Messi discussion in regards to when Saudi Arabia came in for him. I was shocked he didn't go there. Great, choose football reasons or family reasons, going to Miami. I respect that 100%. As a man, turning down $400 million a year in Saudi Arabia, I was shocked. And I just think in terms of the situation David De Gea finds himself in now, in regards to the fans on his back, maybe not having first choice, taking that reduced wages, if Saudi Arabia coming in and going to offer you more than what you're currently on for a far easier ride, I think it's a no-brainer to take it, even if you're loyal to Manchester United or not. You're a man, you're a family man first, and I think he's well within his right to take that money. In Saudi Arabia, Tad brings it up here, maybe De Gea's family wants to leave England. Well, that's one of the things he does. I think he's probably waiting for him to Spain, to be honest, because his wife still lives in Spain. So it's a tricky situation for them. De Gea might have just decided he wants to go play in an easier league until he retires.
Does she still live in Spain?
No, well, she works in Spain, I'm sure. Private jets. Seen the Glazers are no shortage of sort of hiring private jets. I'm sure they do spend enough time together. But she has remained or kept her career in Spain. While David De Gea has been in England. Prem here saying, crazy to me that his reputational wage expectation is still so high, considering we haven't heard much of any offers in Europe. Yeah, well, when a player gets on a contract, they're on a contract. It's one of the things that they can sit on.
He will not have a problem finding a club. It'll just come down to how much he wants in terms of wages. That's the only way he won't find a club. Look, I don't think Saudi Arabia is appealing to a lot of players. I think there's a reason that the players you're seeing go over tend to be well into their 30s. Benzema, 36 years old now, 35, 36. Ronaldo, 38. Who else signed? Kante. Yeah. Now well into his 30s. Players are going there when they're well and truly over the hill. I think David De Gea could still compete for a good team in Europe as a goalkeeper.
Yeah. Well, we'll go back to Onana before we move on to Diogo Costa. Onana. Price tags, I don't have Twitter in front of me. From memory, I saw something around 40, 50 million for Onana. Now, if that's Manchester United in town, let's bump that up to 60 or 70 million. Especially David De Gea leaves, we're going to be desperate for a goalkeeper. The price tag will go up. We can point to Manchester United's sort of business dealings in regards to reasoning behind that. But just your thoughts, and also in the chat, what would you be willing to pay if Onana is your man, if you think he's first choice? Larry, if he's top of your list.
He's not.
David De Gea is not a goalkeeper. We need one. If Onana's that man, we're having this discussion, how much is too much for Mason Mount before you walk away? Andre Onana, I have no idea. I am thinking less than 50 million.
Yeah, it can't be any more than that. I think United could probably push for a bit less. Maybe they go the opposite direction. Maybe De Gea goes to Inter. I don't think that'd be far-fetched.
Yeah, as I said, also I think Prem brought it up earlier in regards to the appeal in terms of the noise around David De Gea potentially moving to other clubs. I don't think a player ever moving away from Manchester United generates that discussion. I'm sure a lot of clubs are in touch with David De Gea trying to get him. It's not a story moving away to Inter Milan or to Saudi Arabia, going to Manchester United. Onana, DIOGO Costa, that's huge news.
Do you remember when Patrice Evra left? Do you remember when Evra left United? It came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden it was off to Juventus.
Yeah. I think that's just the way it's reported in terms of, definitely. Going the other way definitely does bring the clicks, but Chris, as long as it's not Pickford. Andrew, good to see you, mate. Tad, in regards to De Gea and Ronaldo.
Raya would be a good shout because he plays in the Premier League. My
just don't think he's good enough.
Hey?
I think it's decent, but Manchester United, like we've had this thing with...
I agree with you. I think there's an element of risk no matter who you sign. My hunch is DIOGO Costa. I like that United got a good bunch of Portuguese players in the spine.
We'll bring up DIOGO Costa. George, who knows a thing or two about goalkeepers, says he's awful.
I don't think he's awful at all.
From what I've seen, and look, I haven't watched Porto over 90 minutes.
He had a bad World Cup. He made some clangers in the World Cup for Portugal on the biggest stage. I don't know whether that's where George is getting his opinion from. But I've seen David De Gea make some absolute clangers this season, and I'm not ready to say David De Gea belongs in the garbage. You know what I mean? So the problem with goalkeepers is once they make a mistake, it's there for everyone to see. A striker can miss. A striker can miss right in front, but if he scores later in the game, all is forgiven. But when a goalkeeper makes a mistake, there's no way to save it. You know what I mean? Like it's just the eye test. When a goalkeeper makes a howler, it looks really bad because it results in a goal.
Well, in regards to the eye test, I went to the gym earlier, did an hour on the treadmill, did about 20 minutes on each player, just sort of watching compilations of Onana and DIOGO Costa. And obviously, we all know the ability of Onana to pick a pass and how sort of flamboyant he is. What my takeaway from DIOGO Costa, and again, this is highlights, of course, a little bit more sort of solid and traditional, a little bit more of a textbook goalkeeper. Now, obviously, extremely talented with the ball. They can strike a ball like better than half our outfield players, to be fair to him. But obviously, that's half the goalkeeper. Well, it's a big part of the goalkeeping debate now. But looks far more, I don't want to say reliable because I don't have the stats to back up mistakes with Onana compared to Costa. Just my hunch was DIOGO Costa looked more reliable than Onana. Now, that could be completely wrong factually, but just in regards to the look I had from YouTube, that's what my takeaway.
I like DIOGO Costa. I think he's a good goalkeeper. He's had his mistakes, but age is on his side. He's still a young player. He's not 18. I might actually just DIOGO Costa. I want to say he's in his early 20s. Let me just double check that while we're here.
Probably looking at a good in terms of if we do have to spend a bit of money, if it's going to be 50, potentially north of 50. It's probably a good age bracket for a goalkeeper. Obviously, they do mature later, but if we are going to spend big money, it's going to have to be on someone you're going to have to be patient with. Unfortunately, like if they're going to be one or two mistakes, you can't spend 60 million on a 32-year-old goalkeeper.
Well, the thing is, Onana is 27, right? So he's going to be 28 soon. The player he is the player he is. The same Paul Pogba debate. So if Onana's got a clanger in him, it's very likely he's going to keep a clanger in him. DIOGO Costa is 23 years of age. There's still an age where you can mold him as you need. And I think if he moves to a big club with good goalkeeping coaches, etc., players around him who push him to be better every day, I think the level of improvement's there. And that's why I'd go DIOGO Costa. Let's also remember the team. You've got Fred, Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes. Who else speaks Spanish and or Portuguese in that team?
I think he's played with obviously with Portugal, but obviously former club in Porto. Lisandro Martinez, I assume he speaks some type of Spanish.
Yeah, it would be Spanish, Argentinian. So for that reason, I think it makes a lot of sense. And
what about the Milan keeper? Have you seen much of the Milan keeper? Don't know how to pronounce the name, but I have seen him, and obviously he does.
He looks good, but I haven't seen it.
Did he have something to do with Chelsea? Well, let me know, Tad. Did he have something to do with Chelsea? Was he on the books there at one stage? Or am I thinking of someone different? Like just as a youth player or academy player or something?
His last name reminds me of an ice cream.
Let me know, or if I'm thinking of there's someone else at Chelsea. But Chelsea's they're a player in this goalkeeping market. It does look like they're going to keep Kepa, but if you're smart and Todd Bowley, you'd be moving Kepa on and bringing someone in. Now, I'm not sure who that person is. Maybe it is Onana or Diogo Costa. I'm not sure.
So
But there are players in regards to this
left
goalkeeper.
Chelsea already?
Sorry?
Is Mendy left Chelsea?
I think so. I'm pretty sure. I know Benjamin Mendy left Manchester City. He wasn't on the retained list. That goes into the Mason Greenwood discussion. But that was interesting. But
oh, really?
Yeah, he's been released. Well, I assume it's probably out of contract.
Interesting.
If you look at Manchester United after a goalkeeper, you would assume Spurs, Chelsea, and then who else are you looking at? Probably out of the big clubs, and that's everyone. Probably, Newcastle, Liverpool, Arsenal, City. They're sorted. So we've got 3 clubs in that top 6, top 4 battle, all looking potentially for first choice goalkeepers.
Who's Newcastle's goalkeeper?
Pope. So they'll keep Nick Pope.
I think they'll stick with Pope for at least another season.
Oh yeah, no. I think he's a long term. Whether he's good enough long term in terms of Premier League and Champions League titles, that's for.
I like Pope. I don't mind Pope.
Yeah, I don't think they'd ever look at that until it becomes a problem. It's not a problem, as of yet. But it is interesting because let's say 3 goalkeepers go to those 3 different clubs. You're not going to have 3 great signings. One of them's going to flop. One of them's going to be brilliant. One might be sort of okay. And I think each club will be sort of crossing their fingers and toes that they come out the right side of it. Yeah,
no. Of course. Chelsea, whoever they sign is going to flop. Chelsea are they're laughable. Todd Bowley, honestly, he has played FIFA.
They signed a Villarreal striker 20 minutes ago. Well, not signed, but he got the here we go sort of thing from Fabrizio, Villarreal striker for 30 million. Not sure who it was.
This?
Nicholas, Jackson Martinez or something. There's someone in the chat. Who did Villarreal just sell to Chelsea?
Jackson Martinez. That's
the one that sprung to mind. It's a name. I'll put it in the chat. I'll bring it up here. Someone. Yeah, Jackson, someone. I'll put it in the chat 10 minutes ago.
Is he a striker?
Striker, who are we looking at? Nicholas Jackson, Villarreal striker, 35 million euro.
Don't quote me on this, but I reckon Chelsea will keep Lukaku.
I'll tell you who also the forgotten man. We've gone way off Manchester United goalkeepers at the moment. You've gone wrong with Lukaku. That is a shout. Forgotten man in regards to this retained list. I didn't see his name there, so I'm not sure what the technical situation is around. But you can throw Veghorst into this if you want. But Marcel Sabitzer, our issue in and around midfield and signings, obviously was injured at the end of the season. But your sort of current thoughts on the Sabitzer situation, because if we can't get our main man, whoever that is in Mason Mount or whatever, my opinion, I like Sabitzer. I thought he did enough to warrant a spot next season for Manchester United. Some people might disagree. But it's all gone quiet there. You think that maybe sort of a little bit more noise, whether he's going to leave or stay, but nothing as of yet.
Yeah. I don't know what to make of all of the transfers ins and outs. I'm not feeling. I've read Martial is likely to stay and likely to go all in the space of one day. So I mean, I don't know where it goes.
I was speaking to Rob earlier, Rob watches Juventus on a weekly basis. He doesn't like Rabiot. I do like Rabiot. If he's free, I'm taking him. But I also like Sabitzer. But if Rabiot is going to be free, Erik ten Hag obviously has a liking to Rabiot, and I think it would piss off the fan base. But for me, just the way I view football, I think there's a player there. A lot of people do disagree, and that's the game of opinions. But
it's because he's not. People don't. If a midfielder's not exciting, people just assume they're shit.
He's exciting to me, though. I like someone who sort of picks the ball up on the turn like him. And,
he's a tidy midfielder. But it's Carrick. Do you remember? I think
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But the argument is the same. A player who I remember, I swear to you, until Carrick's final season, most United fans sat there saying, "Oh, what does he do? He just passes side to side. I could do that."
It wasn't until 12-13. So he came in 06-07. It wasn't until that Van Persie season where he really got the plaudits. He was probably player of the season that year, to be fair, over Van Persie.
Did anyone bother to think that United had their most successful period with him at the heart of the midfield?
Yeah. There's always this argument we never replaced Roy Keane. We went 3 years without winning the title, and Roy Keane, my favourite ever player, but we went three seasons without winning the title with Roy Keane in midfield. The replacement, the next number 16, Michael Carrick, came in, and we had our most successful ever 3 years. And I'm just thinking, interesting how that did play out, because we never replaced Roy Keane.
What's your preferred type of deep-lying midfielder? If you had to choose,
Yeah,
like if you're building a team from scratch, would you take number
Carrick.
6
Oh,
Roy
well,
Keane or Carrick?
well, actually, probably late 30s Paul Scholes, but he goes in the Michael Carrick category in regards to Andre Pirlo, Michael Carrick.
Yeah.
I'd say that later version of Paul Scholes, because I never viewed Roy Keane as well, he kind of was, but I didn't view him as a defensive midfielder. I think he was just a midfielder. Sort of a little bit of both. I think because of the tackles and the red cards, I think we
In
all
the
think
back end of his
defensive.
career, definitely.
Oh, yeah, they didn't sort of bomb forward. Yeah, definitely if you line him up on a pitch. But yeah, I don't know how we went on to Michael Carrick. Yeah, Adrian Rabiot. But into Rabiot, just sort of to wrap up, sort of goes into that in the last point nicely I was going to make in regards to you a little bit there, just sort of displaying a little bit of frustration towards the transfer market. You don't really know what's happening. 1 week it's this, 1 week it's that. And it goes back into the ownership discussion, which you and me sort of disagree on. And look, my opinion changes every single day. It'll change by the time we have this discussion. But you're sort of always quite confident, we see an end game. This will be sorted soon, and the new owners will come in and we'll get to work. And I've always been, hang on, I can see this going on, dribbling on into the season. And I'm just thinking, the longer this goes on, the Glazers are the ones signing the checks for this transfer window, and the longer they are in charge, nothing's going to get, or the stuff will get done, but not to the ambition we need if a Qatar or a Sir Ratcliffe comes in.
I don't think a new owner would change. I really don't think it change. United are not.
So then it's just going to be a Glazer window then.
United are not restricted at the moment, because this is a key point though. Like, hate the Glazers, that's fine, but United are not being restricted by the Glazers at the moment. United are being restricted by financial fair play. So that issue was going to be there whether it was the Glazers in charge of this transfer window or not. And the thing is, I've watched and read enough about this. So Kieran Maguire, who's fantastic, he really breaks down the finances of football. He actually says United are in a position where they could actually spend 200 plus million this transfer window if they wanted to. But the problem is, if United do that this season, it's really going to hamper them next season. Because you don't know who the owners are going to be, who may be able to potentially bring in more sponsorship, more revenues. United might be able to sell players. For those reasons, I actually understand a more pragmatic approach to say, all right, let's spend 150 or whatever it is. Let's try and sell some players and see where we land. You have to work with financial fair play. It's there for
pragmatism, and then there's getting players over the line. Like in terms of, we've had this debate, okay, it might not be target A, it might have to go down to target B sort of thing, potentially. And just someone who can sort of fill a hole, and sort of that's whatever the manager sort of does ask for. He's not going to just say, just get this player. There is a list. If you can't get target A, we'll go get plan B. But at the moment, we're sort of, we're looking at plan B. We'll have a think about him. We'll have a couple of bids. We'll see what plays out. Next thing we know, the players are going to be jetting all over America, and we're not going to get any deals done. Then we're going to be here on deadline day here. Box here saying, imagine transfer deadline day. Glaze announced they're staying. They'll Dubravka, of course, Sabitzer is permanent sign. It's like, we laugh at stuff like that. But I can see a situation where the Glazers are in charge come the start of the season. And then we are going to be...
I think there'll be an announcement. Look, I think an announcement is imminent. I think a full takeover will take time. Which is always the way.
Something about the takeover. I'm not sure if Kieran Maguire has mentioned it in any of his work, but in regards to if a new owner comes in, you talk about all those financial fair play sort of restrictions. When a new owner comes in, there is some type of rule they can put some type of cash boost, like a one-off payment as a new owner, sort of into the club, and that sort of goes into a transfer kitty. In terms of it's like a one-off payment a new owner can come in and do.
I'm not aware of that.
I'm not sure. I might be talking absolute nonsense there, but that is something I have heard. But Chad here saying, even if the Glazers accepted Qatar's bid today, the Glazers would probably still be in charge. Yeah, look, that's the thing. We have no idea how this process plays out. It might be done. It might be hand over the keys, or it could take weeks or months. Absolutely no idea. But
I think with the Foundation of 92 registering to be a company in England, I think the reports
that sounds like it was very sort of, the Glazers are making both sides do that. So when they do make a decision, it's all there.
Yes, I mean, I think there's a bit of peace to take in that, though, and there's enough noise coming out that is in Qatar's favor that makes you think something is happening, and for that reason, I tend to think the end is near. I think something will come of this. Like, whether it, you'd have to. I'd like to say the next week. I've been saying the next week for the last 2 weeks, but look,
that's what I mean. I feel the same as you. I feel that it will be next week, and then here I am. Well, it's not next week, and I'm just thinking, well,
it does feel a bit different. The reports that are coming out, Rio put up a video that was 5 minutes long just so he could say, "My sources are telling me Qatar's in."
If you actually go back, and I remember sort of, if you watch it and then you sort of read it in text when you read the headlines a little bit different, go back and watch that. It's really just, if you put Rio Ferdinand, forget the personality, forget the influence, just look at him as a fan sort of gathering information online. It was very much just sort of speaking like a fan and said, I'm hearing, like we're hearing on Twitter, Qatar's going to take over. That's sort of all he was saying. He didn't really say, my sources said this. He just said, we're hearing this. And I'm just thinking he was a little bit hard done in regards to the report. And that's what I'm saying. He should have done that.
He said those words.
He said what?
He says the sources I have suggesting it's in Qatar.
Yeah, but that's like us saying our sources are Fabrizio Romano, our sources are this guy with the blue tick, like his sources.
No. When someone like that says my sources, that means they've heard it directly from someone.
Yeah, and
I'm not going to come on here and say my sources. I'm going to say Fabrizio Romano or Laurie Whitwell or Andy Mitten or whoever it might be.
But it's only a 50-50. But and look, Rio Ferdinand, look, I'm not doubting his sources, but obviously Ronaldo. But that's where this has nothing to do. The people in Manchester United who work for Manchester United who are in the dark, completely in the dark of what's going to happen. A football transfer between players is very different. Obviously, Rio Ferdinand and Sir Alex Ferguson played a part in that transfer themselves. This business side of things, this has been played out in New York. This has not been played out at Old Trafford amongst the training ground staff. And I'm just thinking, and look, he might have his ear to the ground. He might know something. I just have a feeling he was just speaking a little bit like a fan and got a little bit excited, like he did that famous interview with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, saying give him the contract like we all did. And unfortunately, that didn't sort of work out. But before we wrap up, Larry, any other sort of talking points? Any other goalkeeper points? Mason Mount?
I think it'll be Qatar. And I think you and I, like I said, have to come on here dressed appropriately when Qatar is announced.
Do you think there's a situation in regards to the Glazers that are still the ones sort of pulling all the strings, and they're the ones with all the power in this at the moment? Do you think there's a situation, it's completely unheard of, and the PR suggests otherwise, but in regards to the facts in terms of getting this over the line, there is a situation where Qatar sort of have to compromise and take the Sujim approach and give the Glazers something? And now whether they can hide that PR-wise, I'm not sure. But in terms of getting this over the line, could you see a situation where this 100% full sale by Qatar technically isn't?
No, I don't think so. You don't put up here's the difference between the two deals, and this is why I say no. The fact that Qatar are putting in 100% means that they're offering more upfront. So if you're following the Sir Jim or Ineos's offer, less money upfront, but makes the Glazers more money potentially longer term, on the assumption that Manchester United as an institution goes up in value in 2 years' time. In saying that, I think there is always a little bit of wink, wink, nudge, nudge. The Glazers are businessmen, and Qatar have their fingers in a lot of pies at the moment. So maybe there are other opportunities outside of football that could be offered. And that's where
they discussed that with the NFL team in Qatar, sort of like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think the Glazers will be short of business opportunities should they want to make more money. In saying that, I mean, particularly Avram, like he's saggier than a 90-year-old's bull sack. Like I just take.
There are some good. I say good photos. They're not good photos, but well photoshopped memes of Avram Glazer. Unfortunate. Yeah, there's some cracking photos. I'll share you some. But the last one here from Box.
Genuine question. If you had the wealth that Avram Glazer had, would you not get a facelift or something?
It seems like that in terms of the Donald Trump stuff and Avram Glazer. Always a discussion, why don't I get this done? Why don't I get it done? But the people with the most money seem to not care. And who are we to argue? Fair play to them. But they're the ones with the money.
I'm convinced.
But
have you seen Boxy, Vince McMahon lately? He's got a seedy mustache going on.
Yeah, that comes and goes. Yeah, Vince McMahon, oh God, he's got his own issues he has to worry about, unfortunately, at the moment. But what do you make of the whole UK press versus the world press debate regarding the media handling of this takeover? I think I heard one or two people talk about this. BBC did a podcast on it. It just comes down to the Glazers. They said this is not. We look at this as takeover. We think, oh, is this normal? Is this how it sort of plays out? Maybe a little bit sort of drawn out, but is this the process? And we think here, with no sort of knowledge of the situation, maybe this just is what it is. The financial experts are speaking about, and they're saying this is a mess. This is not how it's done. The Glazers are just milking this for every penny they can. So this is not how professionals do this takeover. And so we're looking at this. So it might just be what it is. But the financial experts say, no, this has been reported the way it is because it's an absolute mess.
It is. I mean, I don't know how much I can say. So I've been involved in processes where I've signed my own NDAs. So that's why I'm just conscious of what words I say online. I've been part of processes where you make tender offers when there's multiple parties bidding. If someone says to you there is a first round or a second round or whatever, to then have a bidding war go on beyond that period is super unprofessional. There should be a tender, and then once everyone puts in their bids, they basically should let the successful party know, hey, you're successful. That's essentially it. That's the way that this rolls. The fact that it's gone to because there was a first and a second, but after that there was a third, and then Sheikh Jassim put in a first and final to basically threaten the Glazers out, and then Sir Jim in the middle of that changed his bid and offered the Glazers.
Can someone or some entity or the stock exchange or can some power get involved and sort of not override the Glazers, but put their foot down? And
no, because the Glazers hold majority of the B shares.
But just in regards to like the legal process, like the bank. Sorry.
Well, this is why I think there'll be a legal case to answer if Ineos win. I think there'll be a lawsuit, because if I have shares in Manchester United, why on earth would you not? At the end of the day, you should go to the highest bidder. Why on earth would you accept a bid that's offering you less? At the end of the day, the Glazers are only thinking about themselves, and they'll rely on their own legal representation.
But that less looks like potentially in 3 or 4 years' time will end up being more if the valuation's higher. If Qatar value it at $6 billion, Sir Jim does $6.2 billion.
Only. Yeah. That's the problem. If I'm a shareholder, because let's not forget that there must be people who own hundreds of millions of dollars of shares in Manchester United. Let's say tens of millions, if I'm being a bit giddy, right? If you own tens of millions of shares in Manchester United and you've got this Sheikh Jassim offer, which is potentially going to pay you 3-4 times worth your share, you want to cash in. Yeah. And the fact that the Glazers are not giving you an opportunity to have a say on that, absolutely that's going to turn into a lawsuit.
100%. And look, without any knowledge or experience in that field, wouldn't they, and again, this might be completely wrong or right, but wouldn't they sort of know that when they sign up to those Class A shares versus Class B, they know this is a potential risk?
The Glazers wouldn't care. That's what happens. When you're that wealthy, you just rely, you make the mistakes and you tell your lawyers to fix it later. That's the way it works. So the Glazers purely right now, it's about whatever serves their interests, and whatever comes after that, well, they got a team of lawyers to look after it. That's why these guys have big legal teams that help them out.
Well, hopefully the teams can get to work and get something over the line, because we need an answer. Even if it's not a conclusion, just give us an answer. Give us a direction of what is happening, whether that be ownership, whether that be goalkeeping, whether it be Mason Mount, something. We need something to happen because everyone's signing players, everyone's sort of getting things rolling for the next season, and we're looking how exciting our youth team is going to be playing against Wrexham in Las Vegas. That's all we have to look forward to at the moment. So, Larry, it's been a pleasure this Saturday night. We don't often do a stream on Saturday. As I said, we usually wait for some football, but there is no football at the moment. But do appreciate everyone in the live chat. Good discussion today in and around the goalkeepers. I'm sure there's no shortage of goalkeeping discussions
Paul
in the next
Pogba
couple of
talking
weeks.
Shit once more.
Who's that?
Paul Pogba talking shit about Manchester.
Oh, forgot about him. Well, what did he say?
My return to Juve, because it's really the club that helped push me, and really the love from the fans, the love from the club that I didn't receive in Manchester. Oh, yeah, because you were an angel in Manchester, weren't you, pal?
I just look at Paul Pogba now and look at probably two of his biggest defenders, two of his biggest fans, and you and me. We had the greatest respect for him. We really enjoyed or really liked him as a player. Obviously, didn't do enough. There's no doubt about that. But looking at how it's unfolded, I was happy. Okay, best of both parties. Move on. Didn't work out. Is what it is. Go with my best wishes. Go do your thing in Juventus. I'm just so glad he's just. I say these respectfully, but he's just not our problem anymore.
His hype is far beyond his ability.
Yeah.
Well, no,
He
the
has some
ability was
ability.
there, but
Yeah.
he's
I know.
had an awful amount of injuries, and to be honest, I don't think he's been the most professional. I think there was this misconception around how professional he was. I don't think he's been professional at all, and you're seeing it now. That's why his body keeps breaking down.
Yeah, definitely. And look, that's on him. Unfortunately, sometimes you put that down to luck. Unfortunately, sometimes, but also other players sort of do take that extra 5-10%, and that makes the difference. That's up for Paul Pogba and him to fix. Fingers crossed for his sake, he can do that. But as I said, whether he does or doesn't, it's not Manchester United's problem. It was our problem for so long, and I wouldn't say it was on him. It hurt the club, but it was one of the many. It was one of the many nails in our coffin.
When he retires, I think he'll look back with a lot of regret.
I look at that and I agree 100%. But then he gets his World Cup medal out. I think, well, hang on, he's won a World Cup. He scored in a World Cup final.
I get that, but for what he, but so did Brazilian Ronaldo. The end of the day is like you look at what Paul Pogba's talent promised, and to compare to what he delivered, he fell way short of where he should have. Like Yaya Toure was probably my favorite midfielder outside of a Manchester United player in the last, decade. Yaya Toure was phenomenal as a player. He gave United headaches every time we versed him. I remember his performance in the 6-1. He was brilliant. And that season where City won their first title, Pogba had the ability to surpass Yaya Toure. He could do all the things Yaya Toure had, but he also had the explosiveness and he had the ability to dribble past people as well with a bit more pace and dynamism than Toure did. He just never put it together because Toure had it up here. Pogba didn't.
It is where a lot of the game is played upstairs. There's no doubt about that. And our goalkeeper and our next goalkeeper needs to be strong upstairs. It can be good with the feet, but when things don't go our way, which will happen, even if you're the greatest goalkeeper, you're going to make a mistake. He's going to need to bounce back and have a strong mindset. And fingers crossed, Erik ten Hag is the man to evaluate that and get his men over the line. But do appreciate everyone in the live chat. Good discussion today. Please do leave a like on your way out. Hit that subscribe button so do get notified next time we're having a chat. And Larry, it is Saturday night. Feels like a Sunday to me, but it is Saturday night from all reports. I'm sure there'll be news. I'm sure there'll be a report on something. And we'll chat. I'm just on the calendar. It does say Saturday.
Yeah, mate, we'll chat tomorrow, which is Sunday.
Sunday, but until then, I almost put the bins out tonight. It's Sunday night is bin night in my street, and Saturday night I almost put them out. But thank you for everyone notifying me of the date, and we'll chat to you tomorrow. Cheers.
Cheers.